Members of the administration, just wanted to confirm, are you able to hear this okay?
Yes.
Yes, this is Package.
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
July 30th, 2020, special meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Alcoffer.
Here.
Mr. Alcoffer is present. Mr. Ansello.
Here.
Mr. Ansello is present. Ms. Barnhart.
Here.
Ms. Barnhart is present. Mr. Baroth. Mr. Baroth is excused. Mr. Baynes. Mr. Baynes. Ms. Boyce.
Here.
Ms. Boyce is present. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew.
Here.
Mr. Brew is present. President Carbone.
Here.
President Carbone is present. Mr. Delehanty.
Here.
Mr. Delehanty is present. Mr. Florio.
Here.
Mr. Florio is present. Mr. Dondorfer.
Here.
Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Felder.
Here.
Mr. Felder is present. Mr. Flagler Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Flagler Mitchell is present. Ms. Hassman.
Here.
Hassman is present. Mr. Hebert.
Here.
Mr. Hebert is present. Mr. Keofit-Lacey.
Here.
Mr. Keofit-Lacey is present. Ms. Lamar.
Here.
Ms. Lamar is present. Mr. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Lee is present. Mr. Mafucci.
Here.
Mr. Mafucci is present. Mr. Marionetti. Mr. Marionetti.
Here.
Mr. Marionetti is present. Mr. Morelli.
Here.
Mr. Morelli is present. Ms. Roman.
Here.
Ms. Roman is present. Ms. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Smith is present. Ms. Taylor.
Here.
Ms. Taylor is present. Mr. Turp.
Here.
Mr. Turp is present. Mr. Wilcox.
Here.
Mr. Wilcox is present. Mr. Wilt.
Here.
Mr. Wilt is present. Mr. Udelson.
Here.
Mr. Udelson is present. Mr. Zale.
Here.
Mr. Zale is present. Mr. Baynes. Mr. Baynes.
Here he is right there.
Here.
Here, Mr. Baynes is present.
We will need to suspend the rules of the legislature for the purpose of prohibiting public in-person attendance in accordance with Executive Order 202.1, which was extended through August 5th by Executive Order 202.48. We have a motion before you, which is moved by Legislator Brew and seconded by Legislator Zale. This is a non-debatable motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Please join me in a moment of prayer. Please join Legislator Roman as she leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call this special meeting of the legislature pursuant to the authority vested in me as president of the Monroe County Legislature by section C2-9C1 of the county charter and section 545-5 of the rules of the legislature of the county of Monroe. This meeting has been closed to the public and all legislators are participating via teleconference in accordance with Executive Order 202.1 and 202.48. In keeping with the legislature's tradition of openness, the meeting is being live streamed on YouTube through the legislature's official channel. Everyone participating via video or teleconference will please mute their devices except to obtain the floor or cast a vote. If seeking to obtain the floor, please simply state your name and wait for me to call on you before proceeding with your question or statement. The clerk will read the full title of each resolution and referral to avoid any confusion as to which item is before the legislature. All votes will be held via voice vote unless a roll call is requested. Tonight we'll consider a motion to recess the special meeting and convene a meeting of the whole. In doing so, we will also discharge those items currently referred to committee and commit them to the committee of the whole. All legislators will be members of the committee of the whole and able to participate in debate and vote on items regardless of their respective committee assignments or which committees the referral was initially assigned. The committee of the whole will be governed by the same rules of the legislature that govern committee meetings, and the votes taken are equivalent to those taken in committee. Meeting items passed by the committee of the whole will be considered for final approval or appropriate action at the next regularly scheduled meeting of the legislature. We will now hold a public forum. Mr. Clerk.
No one is registered to address the legislature, nor were any written comments submitted.
We will now proceed with the consideration of motions, resolutions, and notices. Will the clerk read the next item on the agenda?
Item number 1, providing that files number 20-0209, 20-0227, and 20-0230 through 20-0250 and 20-0256 be discharged from the agenda charter, public safety, planning and economic development, human services, transportation, intergovernmental relations, environment and public works, and ways and means committees, providing that the legislature convene a committee of the whole, and providing that files number 20-0209, 20-0227, 20-0230 through 20-0250, and 20-0256 be committed to the committee of the whole.
Moved by Legislator Bruce, seconded by Legislator Zale. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. At this time, we'll recess the July 30th, 2020 special meeting of the Monroe County Legislature, and we will convene the committee of the whole. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Alcoffer.
Here.
Mr. Alcoffer is present. Mr. Ansello.
Here.
Mr. Ansello is present. Ms. Barnhart.
Here.
Ms. Barnhart is present. Mr. Baroth is excused. Mr. Baynes.
Here.
Mr. Baynes is present. Ms. Boyce.
Here.
Ms. Boyce is present. Mr. Brew.
Here.
Mr. Brew is present. President Carbone.
Here.
President Carbone is present. Mr. Delehanty.
Here.
Mr. Delehanty is present. Ms. DeFlorio.
Here.
Mr. DeFlorio is present. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer.
Here.
Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Felder.
Here.
Mr. Felder is present. Mr. Flagler Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Flagler Mitchell is present. Ms. Hassman.
Here.
Ms. Hassman is present. Mr. Hebert.
Here.
Mr. Hebert is present. Mr. Keofit-Lacey.
Here.
Mr. Keofit-Lacey is present. Ms. Lamar.
Here.
Ms. Lamar is present. Mr. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Lee is present. Mr. Mafucci.
Here.
Mr. Mafucci is present. Mr. Marinetti.
Here.
Mr. Marinetti is present. Mr. Morelli.
Here.
Mr. Morelli is present. Ms. Roman.
Here.
Ms. Roman is present. Ms. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Smith is present. Ms. Taylor.
Here.
Ms. Taylor is present. Mr. Terp.
Here.
Mr. Turp is present. Mr. Wilcox.
Here.
Mr. Wilcox is present. Mr. Wilt.
Here.
Mr. Wilt is present. Mr. Udelson.
Here.
Mr. Udelson is present. Mr. Zale.
Here.
The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. You have the minutes from the June 22nd, 2020 meeting of the Committee of the Whole before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. We will now hold a public forum. Mr. Clerk.
No one's registered to address the Committee of the Whole, nor were any written comments submitted.
We will now recess the July 30th meeting of the Committee of the Whole for the purpose of holding a series of public hearings. The first hearing is on the proposed additions to the Monroe County Western Agricultural District. The public hearing is being held to give the public an opportunity to comment on the proposed addition to the district and the recommendations of the Monroe County Agricultural and Farmland Protection Board. I will now declare open the July 30th, 2020 public hearing before the Committee of the Whole. Article 2.5AA of the New York State Agriculture and Markets Law allows the county legislature to create agricultural districts. The law then requires the legislature to review each district 8 years after its creation and every 8 years thereafter to see if it is achieving its intended purposes, which is to help conserve and encourage the use of agricultural land for the production of agricultural products. In 2002 and 2003, the New York State Legislature adopted changes to the Agriculture and Markets Law that enables property owners to petition for adding lands to an established agricultural district at a time designated by the county legislature. Previous to this change, property owners wishing to add lands to an agricultural district had to wait until the established 8-year anniversary date to petition the county legislature for action. A public hearing must be held prior to the legislature voting to add parcels to agricultural districts. The purpose of the public hearing is to give the public an opportunity to comment on the proposed addition.
A mailing regarding this public hearing was sent to the supervisor, clerk, and landowners of the affected towns and the Commissioner of Agriculture and Markets on July 16th, 2020. Affidavit of publication and posting of hearing notices, the Daily Record and Rochester Business Journal on July 24th, 2020 have been reviewed and are on file in the clerk's office. We will now hear public comments regarding the proposed addition to the agricultural districts from anyone on the call. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to address the committee on this subject?
Hearing none, I declare this public hearing closed. The Committee of the Whole will take action on this matter and will come before the full legislature at the August 11th, 2020 meeting. Following its adoption, a report and revised district map will be submitted to the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets. I now declare open the public hearing entitled Approving Monroe Community College's 2020-2021 Operating Budget.
Affidavit of publication and posting of hearing notice in the Daily Record and Rochester Business Journal on July 24, 2020 have been received and are on file in the clerk's office. We will now hear public comments regarding the proposed Monroe Community College 2020-2021 operating budget. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to address the committee on this subject?
Yes, this is Interim President Dr. Kate Douglas from Monroe Community College. I respectfully request the opportunity to discuss and present.
Go ahead, Douglas.
We have later on in the agenda the presentation portion where the college administration will have the opportunity. This is opportunity just for members of the public that would like to participate, but there is a presentation section later on in the meeting. If that's.
I will wait my turn, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas. Okay, I declare this public hearing closed. I will now reconvene the July 30th, 2020 meeting of the Committee of the Whole. Dr. Catherine B. Douglas, Interim President of the Monroe Community College, will now present on the college's proposed 2020-2021 operating budget. The budget book was provided to legislators in advance of the meeting and is available through Novus Agenda. We will save discussion and questions for when we reach this item on the agenda. Dr. Douglas, you have the floor.
Okay, this time I'd like to present. Good evening. Tonight I have the honor of presenting Monroe Community College's fiscal 21 budget to you, our Monroe County Legislature. Thank you for your time and this opportunity. I began at MCC last February, and in these 6 months, I have come to understand and deeply appreciate the support that MCC receives from all of you and the taxpayers you represent. Monroe County's investment in your community's college is evident and impactful. Impactful from MCC's nationally recognized innovative workforce development programs to the students in our career and technical education curricula, through our numerous collaborations with Monroe County and local businesses. Impactful from the almost 4,600 students earning college credits while still in high school, to our selection by the State University of New York to lead the community college sector rollout of the National Guided Pathways Model for student retention and success. Impactful from our role in the Finger Lakes Youth Apprenticeship Program, working with the Rochester Technology and Manufacturing Association and 30 different local school districts. The impact of MCC's excellence can be traced back to your investment and support. You understand that the success of your community's college means the success of our community. So again, we thank you. Due to the economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic, the fiscal challenges being faced by Monroe County and New York State have caused stress in our region's financial picture. And despite receiving $4.58 million from the Federal CARES Act, every dollar of which was awarded directly to students, MCC has also felt this stress. State aid to community colleges continues to decline, reverting to the volume-based FTE model, coupled with the FTE rate being held at last year's level, resulting in a 7.6% decrease from last year's state appropriation. That decrease being only the first of at least 2 state aid reductions we anticipate in fiscal 21, because the state's budget director is now authorized to enforce quarterly cuts to state allocations. Addressing these reductions, the college has offered an early retirement incentive, established a hiring freeze and voluntary furloughs, instituted strict vacancy controls, eliminating more than 50 positions, along with travel, contract, and equipment freezes. And we are currently in conversation with our unions about additional reductions. We recognize that your continued investment in MCC requires our continued commitment to fiscal responsibility and accountability. MCC will continue its strong fiscal stewardship while balancing the evolving needs of our students and our community. The budget we present to Monroe County this year keeps level funding from you, our local sponsor, and is grounded in that commitment. MCC's $119 million proposed budget reflects a $2.8 million decrease as we continue to align staffing to enrollment and community needs while containing costs and maintaining the outstanding educational quality, which has become synonymous with MCC. We have been able to enhance academic programs and services in high demand areas through strategic resource reallocation into career and technical fields such as healthcare and technology programming. For example, MCC's certificates in mechatronics, optics, and medical office assistants connect education directly to employment, assuring that students will earn for what they learn and that regional businesses continue to have the workforce necessary to grow. An important example of these education and workforce partnerships has for the last 3 years been the Ladders Up program developed in collaboration with you, Monroe County. Ladders Up provided an additional 245 individuals with an opportunity to participate tuition-free in MCC's healthcare training programs. These included certified nurse assistant, advanced CNA, and home health aide. Of the 103 students who have completed the CNA program so far, 95% have passed the New York State exam and are currently employed as CNAs. Such partnerships mean that even in a time of constrained resources, MCC can expand quality educational programs that are directly responsive to student demand and regional needs. We're particularly pleased to report that we received word over the past 2 weeks that both our nursing and our surgical tech graduates completed their licensure examinations with a 100% pass rate. MCC graduates these future healthcare professionals every year, ensuring that your investment in the community's college will be central to the recovery of our region's workforce, and that we will be ready to do so. A certificate or degree from MCC provides local residents with a passport to future success. Approximately 81% of our students come from Monroe County, and they stay here upon graduation, making a positive difference. Over 96% of MCC's 2018 graduates in career and technical programs found their full-time employment right here in our beautiful Finger Lakes region. MCC's capacity and responsiveness have made us a national model in public-private partnerships that build workforce opportunity. The demand for graduates in our career and technical education programs far exceeds supply. MCC works with over 200 employers and organizations in the public and private sectors to provide workforce training. Students receive multiple job offers and enter into rewarding careers. Thanks to our innovative upcoming collaboration with Monroe County's newly envisioned MPower program, MCC will expand our capacity to grow our region's skilled workforce. Over the last years, this partnership between the county and the college has supported 900 students, including 500 incumbent workers across 41 companies, including the 12-company plastics consortium. And in just over 1 year, we will open our 50,000 square foot state-of-the-art workforce development center at the downtown campus. It will teach courses focusing on skills which data projects are in demand now, as well as those likely to be needed 5 to 8 years from now. Again, MCC will be central to the recovery of our region's economy and workforce, and because of your support, we will be ready to do so. We can proudly say that our students receive a high-quality post-secondary education from one of the nation's top community colleges right here in their own backyard. MCC is among the top 3% of community colleges in awarding associate's degrees. Our 2018 graduates transferred to 139 different colleges as they work to complete their bachelor's degree, and graduates electing to immediately start new careers were hired by 380 different employers. Thanks to the support of Monroe County and SUNY, our learning environments support the ongoing quality of our talented faculty and their cutting-edge programs. The data supports our confidence in the value we provide students, but we are also mindful that student investment in MCC must remain within their reach, accessible geographically, academically, and financially. MCC takes seriously the investment we ask students to make in their education. We know that our student population is changing, and in turn, our students' expectations of MCC are changing. Our college is transforming to meet these expectations and adapt to and anticipate the new landscape of higher education. Even before the pandemic, MCC offered 19 different programs available fully online to students. Last September, again, well before the pandemic hit, approximately 20% of our full-time equivalent enrollment was in our online virtual campus. You will continue to see more fast-track certificate and degree offerings and more opportunities for adult learners to accelerate their paths to graduation by receiving credit for work and life experience. Yet, we know that many of the students who join us face challenges with basic necessities, such as food, transportation, and are subject to the digital divide, a chasm made acutely apparent by the pandemic. Not surprisingly, many of our students lack the technology required to participate in distance learning. As the pandemic closed the college last spring, we reached out to students to inquire what their needs were. More than 500 students responded in a single day to a text asking if they required technical assistance to make the transition to remote learning. Then, thanks to board leadership and the MCC Foundation, 200 laptops were distributed to students who in turn signed a memo acknowledging receipt of the laptop, requiring them to return it if they do not register for coursework in the upcoming fall 2020 semester. Soon thereafter, as part of the SUNY system, MCC received an additional 225 laptops to distribute to our students during the transition to remote learning. Our MCC Foundation has been absolutely outstanding in helping our students during this pandemic. When required clinical rotations for our nursing students were understandably canceled, the MCC Foundation funded a simulation program to replace in-person clinicals, which the faculty got approved by the nursing accreditation body, keeping our nurses on track for graduation and that 100% pass rate I mentioned earlier. Again, through the generosity of our foundation, we were able to increase resources to students for our Dream Keepers Emergency Assistance Program and for single stop access to state and federal assistance. When all face-to-face instruction was disrupted last March, ridership for the popular Universal Bus Pass program was suspended. MCC is currently in negotiations with the Rochester Transit Authority to maintain the Universal Bus Pass program for the 2020 students returning to campus. MCC data provides evidence that students accessing this range of support services persist and succeed at higher rates and make the most of the resources, time, and effort they invest in MCC. MCC's mission drives this student success, and your investment supports it. Our proposed fiscal 21 budget includes a $326 increase, still keeping MCC in the lower half of the 30 SUNY community college tuition rates. The new tuition of $4,706 a year is supported by our student government and our governing board of trustees. However, both these groups recognize that our students are being asked to fill a gap left by a lack of state funding, a point we continue to stress in Albany. Still, for the average student receiving non-loan financial aid awards from federal Pell Grants and New York's tuition assistance program, will both cover and exceed the direct costs of extending our college, including tuition, fees, and books, keeping an MCC education within reach. MCC is committed to keeping higher education affordable in our community. We also understand that tuition is just one aspect of college costs. And last year, thanks again to the MCC Foundation and our generous donors, we awarded over $1.3 million.
She's looking. She's
Making the dream of college a reality for many deserving students. In addition, we saved students over $1.5 million in textbook costs through faculty creating and adopting open educational resources available for free on the internet. This attention to comprehensive affordability is why almost half of our graduates leave MCC with no college debt. Before I close, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the remarkable spirit and tenacity of our faculty and staff. MCC employees have gone above and beyond during this pandemic in order to keep our students engaged and focused on their academic goals during this historically unprecedented time. I want to acknowledge the creativity and persistence of our employees in meeting the needs of our students to the best of their abilities. I bet you can imagine the heavy lift of switching 98% of our courses to remote learning in a single week's time. Our faculty and staff did this with incredible commitment. They stepped up and answered the call. Their dedication has truly been remarkable, and I want you to know that your investment made that possible. So in summary, this year, as every year, MCC thanks you and the residents you represent for your unwavering and essential commitment to our county's college. In the upcoming academic year, we will serve approximately 9,000 state aidable students. They will join over 500,000 alumni whose experiences at MCC have been transformational both personally and professionally. MCC alumni repay your investment many times over. The MCC educated workforce adds approximately $740 million in income to Monroe County's economy each year. Your support of your community's college strengthens our residents, our neighborhoods, our region, and our economy, one MCC Tribune at a time. So thank you. Your vision and partnership with higher education in Monroe County is at the heart of all that MCC does. We are truly grateful for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas. Let me remind you, we'll save discussion and questions for when we reach this item on the agenda. Mr. Randall Shepard, partner at the Bonadeo Group, will now present on the 2019 Monroe County audit. The required communication was provided to legislatures in advance of the meeting and is available through Nova's agenda. We will have a brief question and answer period following Mr. Shepard's presentation. Mr. Shepard, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So yes, you do have a copy of the required communications letter. And just as a reminder, we did issue the county's audit back in May in time for as the charter requires. And what this letter summarizes, as it states, is some required communications. It's laid out. There's a bold section. Beneath that is an explanation of what that represents. And then the italicized bold section essentially is our response to that communication. And the first item I just want to point out is there was a new accounting standard implemented by the county in the current year related to fiduciary activities. So essentially changed the manner in which certain items were accounted for. They used to be in what was called the trust and agency area of the county's financial statements, and they were moved to various areas such as the general fund or solid waste. The impact of that for the general fund was an increase in cash of about $3.6 million, as well as an increase in liability because of that change in accounting. And then there were some other items that went to solid waste to a smaller extent. And there was also some recategorization of what was in trust and agency to a category called custodial, really just acknowledging and recognizing the fact that the county acts as a custodian for funds belonging to others and that don't belong to or are not part of the county's own activities. The other items that the county transacted during the year were all in accordance with authoritative guidance and with in consensus of the standards, and they've been recognized in the proper period. Continuing on to the second page of that letter, if you're following along, accounting estimates, it talks about the fact that the county's financial statements do contain estimates, as do most financial statements. The most significant of those are identified here. The first one relates to other post-employment benefits, so the benefits you provide to retirees. The net impact of that liability to the county is about $600 million. The allowance for uncollectible accounts related to outstanding accounts receivable. That estimate of uncollectability is about 11 million on a total receivable of 84 million. And that primarily relates to the patient accounts at the nursing home, or I'm sorry, at MCH. There is also an estimate related to depreciation expense and also an estimate related to your net pension asset or liability, which essentially is your share of the state pension system's funding or underfunding as it may be. You have really no input into what this number represents, but for the county at the end of 2019, the liability was 50 million. And so what we do is evaluate those key factors and assumptions that are used to make sure they're reasonable, and our conclusion was that they were reasonable for the statements. The county statements also include what are considered sensitive disclosures because of the size or significance of those. And the two most significant are what we just talked about, Note 12 related to your pension obligations, and Note 13 related to the post-employment benefit to retirees. The next category talks about difficulties encountered in performing the audit. And we did not have any difficulties, despite the fact that this entire audit happened remotely, which is obviously not what anyone anticipated when we planned the audit this year with everything occurring. And I do want to thank and acknowledge really the efforts of Jennifer Cesario and the entire finance department staff, her leadership, and Chris Kovacic's oversight of the audit process. It went very well, as well as all the staff that we interacted with during the process. So as you can imagine, we all had to adapt very quickly to a new audit environment where typically we're on site, we're talking on a daily basis, walking down the hall. We weren't able to do that this year, but we were still able to complete the audit, as I said, in timely fashion under the county's charter by the end of May. Uncorrected misstatements, corrected and uncorrected. We do have to disclose anything that we identify or that comes up in the audit that may not be recorded. And this is common. There's things that are not material to the financial statements or would not materially impact a reader's conclusion thereon. And we've identified them in this letter here, and we've made sure that they were not material. We did not have any disagreements with management, and we did get a representation from management relative to issuing the financial statements. And we are not aware that management opinion shopped or looked to another firm for conclusions related to matters that arose. If we were aware of that, we would have had to bring that to your attention. And throughout the year, the county will call us and we will talk about different matters. And that's really part of the ongoing relationship. It really isn't a condition of us being retained as the auditors for the county. So that's important. It maintains our independence, maintains our integrity in terms of the process with which you hire us to perform. And as I said, the audit itself, we did issue an unmodified or clean audit opinion on the county's financial statements. That's what's important. That's what any grantors, bonding agencies, et cetera, are looking for as it relates to the county's financials. We did not identify any significant concerns related to internal controls and the manner in which things are processed. There is always risk in any organization, small or large, but based on our observation and looking at what's going on, we did not raise or identify any significant risks to bring forth to your attention. And then lastly, there are 2 more audits that we will issue related to the county. That's the single audit, the federal single audit, as well as the New York State Department of Transportation audit. We delayed the completion of those because those agencies delayed their due date. And so as we progress and reschedule things, we're working with the county departments to get those scheduled in timeliness for submitting that information. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or turn the floor over to the chairman.
Any questions for Mr. Shepherd? Hearing none, we'll now proceed with new business. Will the clerk read the next item on the agenda?
Referral 20-0209, authorize additions to the Western Monroe County Agricultural District.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Wilt. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 20-0223, approval of Monroe Community College's 2020 to 2021 operating budget.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Turp, seconded by Legislator Delehanty. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 20-0227, creation of a diversity action plan for Monroe County and Diversity Action Plan Advisory Committee.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Flagler Mitchell, seconded by Legislator Turp. Is there any discussion? Hearing none.
Well, actually, Mr. President, I'd like to say something, but before I do, I would like to see if Mr. Legislator Flagler Mitchell would like to say something.
Yes, I sure will. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Legislator Turp. This here is, I'm so excited to introduce the Diversity Action Plan for the Monroe County Legislature. This is the first time that a legislative body in Monroe County cared to see the county diversify. And with the current events that we have been seeing transpiring over the news as of late, it's very important that we have tools like this in place that will protect the employees and ensure that our partners are given opportunities for people of color to get jobs. I want to thank Legislator Turp. I want to thank Leader Brew, as well as Leader Felder, as well as President Carbone, for seeing the need to make sure that we diversify Monroe County. And I thank you all so much, and I'm excited to get this bill passed.
Thank you, Legislator Flagler Mitchell. Legislator Turp?
I'm also really excited about this referral. This referral is going to allow us to try to make our local government as diverse as our community. I do have an amendment I would like to introduce to the bill. I'm not sure if the clerk can either put it on screen or email that out.
And it was available in Novus, but it's also on the screen here.
Okay. So if we take a look, there are 3 different changes to the proposed legislation in this amendment. One is to change the agency to departments. So instead of being each county agency, it's each county department. If you scroll down, the next one is going to be to the committee. The definition of the chief diversity officer role in the committee has changed to be executive, and it also adds a community member to the committee being nominated by the president. So I'd like to submit this amendment to be voted on to the Diversity Action Plan.
Second.
Do I have a second to that amendment?
I'll second it.
Second.
Thank you, Legislator. Thank you. Okay, is there any discussion on the amendment, please? Seeing no discussion on the amendment, could we go to a vote on the amendment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the amendment carries. Now we're going to go back to the original referral. Any further discussion on the original referral? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Congratulations. Next item, please.
Thank you.
Referral 20-0230, authorize an intermunicipal agreement with the City of Rochester to accept pass-through funding from the United States Department of Justice for the 2018 and 2019 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator
Second.
Boyce, seconded by Legislators Alcoffer and Delehanty. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 20-0231, acceptance of a grant from the United States Department of Homeland Security Investigations, Rochester Division for State and Local Overtime.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislator Delehanty. Is there any discussion on this referral? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0232, authorize a contract with Correctional Consulting, Inc. for monitoring of inmate medical and mental health services.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislator Delehanty. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President. Legislator
Yes,
Boyce.
Go ahead, Legislator Boyce.
Yes, through the President, is CCI self-monitoring performance and the operations? Who's going to be doing that monitoring?
Someone on the administration line with their phone on mute.
Yeah, this is Kim Hinckley, attorney with the sheriff. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I've got some music playing in the background here on the phone.
Give us one moment. We'll try and figure out where the source is at. Colin.
I think we're clear now.
Actually, that line's just muted. I'm just gonna make a separate call into that phone line and try and figure out the source. Give me one moment. All right. on it.
Who's the culprit?
I think we're clear now.
I think we're clear. Legislator Boyce, would you please repeat your question?
Yes, through the president. Who will be monitoring the Correctional Consulting Incorporated performance?
It's Kim Hinckley, legal counsel to the sheriff, through the chair. The performance by correctional consulting is based upon what the reports that are coming in monthly. There's monthly meetings with the individual who provides the report to us. Through those reports, we can monitor the progress that the individual does for us.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Mr. President, this is Linda Hasman. Can I ask a question?
Yes, Legislator Hasman, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through the President of the Administration, can you please expand on the types of mental health services that this organization will be providing? Are we talking medication, therapy, both, a combination?
Through the President, with regards to this particular contract, the company monitors our health service provider, Prime Care, to ensure that they're in compliance with the New York State Commission of Corrections, as well as national commissions on correctional health care. With regards to mental health services, that's offered through Prime Care. It does include medications when prescribed by a physician.
Great, thank you. And a follow on that, does that also include addiction counseling?
Through the President, could you repeat that, please?
She wants to know if it also includes counseling. Addiction
counseling.
Addiction counseling is included with the Prime Care contract.
Great, thank you.
Any further discussion on this referral? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0233, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with the Penfield Central School District for the purchase of fuel for vehicles of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
By
Second.
Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislators Alcoffer and Delehanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0234, authorizing intermunicipal agreement with the Churchville Chi-Li Central School District for the purchase of fuel for vehicles of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
By
Second.
Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislators Alcoffer and Delehanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0235, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Penfield for the purchase of fuel for vehicles of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. Second.
Moved by Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislators Alcoffer and Delehanty. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0236, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with the Brockport Central School District for the purchase of fuel for vehicles of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
By
Second.
Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislators Alcoffer and Delehanty. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0237, acceptance of a federal and state aid for the operation and maintenance of the Rochester Monroe County Traffic Control Center.
Move it, Mr. President. Second.
Moved by Legislator Wilt, seconded by Legislator Delehanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0238, acceptance of a grant from the Genesee Transportation Council for the DOT Traffic Signal and Sign Pole Asset Management Program and authorize a contract with Barton and Lejudas Engineers DPC for engineering services.
Move it, Mr. President.
Moved by Legislator
Second.
Wilt, seconded by Legislator Delehanty. Is there any discussion? Being none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0239, amend the 2020 to 2025 capital improvement program, the 2020 capital budget to add a project entitled Highway Preventative Maintenance Number 9, authorize financing for the project, authorize contracts with Fisher Associates PELS LADPC for engineering services, and the New York State Department of Transportation for the Highway Preventative Maintenance Number 9 project in the town of Greece.
Move it, Mr. President. Second.
Moved by Legislator Wilt, seconded by Legislator Delehanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Smith,
Yes, Legislator Smith, you've got the floor.
through the chair, or through the president, what's covered under special services?
This is Tim Freeler with the Monroe Department of Transportation. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Under special services, that is some of the environmental components as well as survey efforts that are involved in the project design.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
further
Mr.
discussion?
President. Mr. President,
Yes.
Legislator Boyce,
Go ahead, Legislator.
through the president, may I ask, is it normal to have 100% of the overruns or I should say, I'm going to rephrase that. I'm going to say, is it normal for the county to be 100% responsible for the cost overruns?
Mr. President, this is Tim again. There are no cost overruns at this point. The current allotment that we have through the federal GTC program accounts for the design. In the event that there are any overages, we would have to go back to the GTC and apply for more money, and that happens sometimes. But at this point, they have adequate funding for the design of the project at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Next item, item carries.
Referral 20-0240, authorize a contract with the New York State Department of Transportation for maintenance of state traffic signal equipment.
Move it, Mr. President. Second.
Moved by Legislator Wilt, seconded by Legislator Delehanty. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President, County Legislator Smith,
Go ahead, Legislator Smith.
through the president to the administration, is it likely that we may reach the maximum of 150,000 before September 21st of 2021?
This is Jim Pond from the Monroe County Department of Transportation. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Through the chair, we would not reach that maximum because there's a fixed number of traffic signals at a fixed rate. So this is a lump sum contract. It's fairly straightforward. There are no variables that would drive the number above the maximum.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0241, amend Resolution 5 of 2017 to accept additional funding from the New York State Department of Health for the Early Intervention Program.
Move it, Mr. President. Second.
Moved by Legislator Hebert, seconded by Legislator Delehanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Hebert?
Yes, Legislator Hebert?
Yes, through you to the administration, is this additional funding be used for existing or new resources?
This is Roxana Insko from Special Children's Services, Monroe County Health Department. Through the chair, this funding will, sure.
We got some background. Somebody in the administration is on hold on another call. You can locate who that is?
Should be set now.
Okay.
That was
Go ahead.
pretty good mellow jazz, President.
So Roxana Insko, Special Children's Services, through the chair, the increased funding will support some existing salaries and benefits, but we also are going to increase contract with our nursing providers to increase the number of hours of a registered nurse that works in our program to help with the increase of referrals that we're expecting.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President, just as a quick follow-up, what's the nature of those services?
Sure. This funding, increase in funding through the chair was provided because of the definition of elevated blood levels. That definition was reduced from 10 micrograms to 5 micrograms, and children with those lead levels need to be referred to the early intervention program. So there will be an increase. We anticipate an increased number of children that may be at risk and potentially need to use our early intervention services. So the nurse for that program will manage our developmental monitoring program so that if any children do display any signs of needing our early intervention services, they will immediately get them a referral for an evaluation.
Thank you, Mrs. Oh, that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. President, this is Linda Hasman. I have a question.
Go ahead, Legislator Hasman.
Through the President of the Administration, can you tell me, through the President of the Administration, can you tell me, are these services being run during the pandemic? Are they telehealth? Are they in person?
Through the chair, we are still continuing to provide services during the pandemic. We're conducting business via phone, telehealth services, and have begun to slowly offer some in-person services with restrictions.
Okay, I have another question. Are you able to provide things like computers or tablets for kids that don't have access to that, or internet connections? How is that being addressed?
Through the chair, when families identify that that is a barrier for them to participate in teleservices, we're working through those issues, trying to help connect them with resources in the community to get those services. There's been some internet connectivity being offered for free. Various community programs offering to let families borrow tablets, and for the most part have been able to work through those requests.
Okay, and one more question. Do you have enough staff in place so that we don't have to have any waiting lists for early intervention?
Through the chair, there is a problem with capacity in our community of the providers to provide the direct services to those children. And so there are at times, sometimes larger than others, wait lists for services. So no, we do not.
Okay, well, that's something we can work on then.
Agreed.
Okay. All right, I'm all set, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, Calvin Lee.
Yes, Legislator Lee, you've got the floor.
Okay. Through the President to the administration, are you partnershiping with any other agencies such as community agencies or any other agencies to administer this?
Through the chair, to administer the program as a whole?
Yes.
Through the chair, yes. We partner with a number of community agencies. Our community providers provide the direct therapies for the children. They contract with the New York State Bureau of Early Intervention to provide those direct services. We certainly work with other agencies throughout the community that serve children and children with special needs and make referrals to other programs as well.
Okay. All righty, thank you.
Mr. President, this is Legislator Brew.
Go ahead, Legislator Brew.
Yes.
Majority Leader.
Through you to the administration. So as a follow-up to Legislator Hasman's question, you did acknowledge that there was a shortage of providers out there, and that is probably the biggest problem that we have in being able to provide early intervention services. Do you agree with that?
Through the chair, yes, it is one of our largest problems.
Okay, so with this funding going to the county and being able to support salaries and benefits and program expenses, am I assuming that there would be more personnel added to the county with the responsibility of early intervention services?
Through the chair, we intend to increase the hours of our contract nurse in order to address the additional referrals. And we are also exploring contracting with software companies to provide a better electronic health record for our early intervention children to increase efficiencies for our existing staff.
Okay, thank you. And would you say, in your opinion, that early intervention services during the COVID crisis, to what extent do you feel that they were able to be maintained? And I guess I'm speaking specifically about teletherapy and those type of remote therapies.
Through the chair, I don't have the exact numbers right here at my fingertips, and I can get those, but many families did choose to continue with teleservices. The work of our service coordinators connecting with families happened remotely via phone rather than in person and in the home. Some families chose not to participate in teleservices. It was just not something that they were able to do at the moment with the other stresses of the COVID pandemic and with having other children home from school. But actually, teleservices, that ability to provide them in early intervention was new because of the pandemic, and it did in some ways assist with some of the children that were waiting on the waiting list because more children were able to be served with via teleservice.
Yes, thank you. And through the president, again, I would guess that it would have resulted in additional people on the waiting list due to the COVID pause.
Through the chair, yes, there were some families who are waiting for when in-person services can begin fully again. And there were some families who chose to pause their services during this time if they were not in person.
Right. So, and just finally, I just like to say that the entire legislative body is heard from the fabulous folks, Parents Helping Parents, advocating for early intervention in pre-K. And I am glad to see that there's some additional funding coming down to support the county. And I'm hopeful that the county continues to advocate for additional monetary resources to do this. But as you said, the provider services have been declining for obvious reasons, and it has mostly to do with provider pay scales and the limitations that are that the state has encumbered upon those providers. So I would just like to ask the county and your department to continue advocating for that, because as I just said, this does help with one half of the problem, but the other half, which is the providers, we still have a long ways to go with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. President, this is Legislator Zale.
Go ahead, Legislator Zale.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to echo Majority Leader Brew's sentiments about the urgency for this matter. And I also wanted to thank the individuals in the early intervention and preschool special education program. As a parent of a child that's gone through the program, that just, I guess, quote unquote, graduated from the program, I have to attest to the tremendous accolades of the individuals that are part of these programs that had to completely shift their skill set into these online learning platforms. My son was enrolled in speech therapy, and while online is certainly not ideal, as there's a skill set for recognizing and seeing the way the mouth forms words, I can't tell you how energetic and enthusiastic my son was to be part of this program and working with Miss Jamie. And I've seen the progress from him, and I just have to give a tremendous amount of respect and kudos to the individuals that are part of this initiative and this program to help kids. It helps parents as well, because we sit there and we're helpless to try to help our kids communicate in an effective way. And I just wanted to say that as a comment that I just greatly appreciate the men and women that are part of this and that have helped personally my family. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, legislators.
Thank you for sharing that.
Any further discussion? Good. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0242, acceptance of a grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, CARES Act Provider Relief Fund Skilled Nursing Disbursement for significant expenses and lost revenue attributable to the COVID-19 pandemic at Monroe Community Hospital.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Hebert, seconded by Legislator Delehanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator DeFlorio.
Yes, Legislator DeFlorio.
Thank you. Through the president to the administration, I noticed that this grant has the ability to be utilized for a revenue shortfall. Can you tell me if there is a current projected shortfall in the hospital fund at this time?
This is Alyssa Tallow from MCH. Through the president, we can use our CARES Act money towards lost revenues, and we have gone through and projected based on what our census rate has dropped during COVID. So we used a rough estimate of $350 a day and multiplied that out through how many residents we have lost over the month. So yes, we do have lost revenues that we're projecting due to our reduced census.
And through the president, so then do you expect to utilize this grant to cover those costs at this time?
Through the president, that is correct. We've worked with the county to figure out what MCH will use their CARES Act money for. And our CARES Act money should be able to cover all of our lost revenue that we attribute to patient days, as well as our cafe sales have also been reduced. So in total, we're projecting about $1.8 million at most in lost revenues at this point. So between our CARES Act money disbursements, we'll be able to cover that between this and the first two.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0243, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with Chemung, Livingston, Ontario, Schuyler, Seneca, Steuben, Wayne, and Yates counties to provide public health mutual aid services in the event of a public health emergency.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. Second.
Moved by Legislator Hebert, seconded by Legislators Alcoffer and Delehanty. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0244, authorized contracts with DeMarco Constructors LLC, DePasquale Construction Corporation, John W. Danforth Company, T-Bell Construction Group, and Kaplan Schmidt Electric Inc. for the Monroe County Jail Visitation Renovation Project.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislator Delehanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Barnhart.
Yes, Legislator Barnhart.
Through the president to the administration, when is this going to be complete? And can you describe a little bit of some of the improvements beyond, I see mechanical, masonry. What will the experience for visitors be different? Can you describe a little bit more about the work?
Through the president, this is Bill Daly with DES. The project will be complete approximately in July of 2021. It is an improvement of the existing visitation area. There'll be more attorney client visitation rooms and an enhancement to the new entrance to the facility. They'll have their own entrance going into the visitation. Currently, there is not. And if Captain Kennedy's on the line, he could probably elaborate a little more.
I am on the line. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll have like Bill said, we'll have a separate entrance to the facility that the jail staff will control. Individuals coming into the facility will drop off all of their belongings before they ever enter. So when they come through the screening area, they will be clean and be able to go right into the visitation area. One side will be professional visits. The social visit side will still be the same. We are expanding the social visitation side due to the state mandate through the minimum standards. They don't look at visits based on the average daily population. They look at the amount of scheduled visits based on the maximum facility capacity. So we have been under the maximum facility capacity to hold visitations at their rate for a number of years. The Commission of Corrections has known that we were waiting to get this done. So they gave us a break until now. So we have to move forward with that. But the bulk of it is going to be professional visitations with a separate entrance for attorneys, pastors, probation, parole, things like that.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0245, authorize a contract with Greater Rochester Independent Practice Association to manage the cost of healthcare claims and prescriptions.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Delehanty, seconded by Legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0246, authorize the sale of county-owned tax foreclosure property located at 883B Chi-Li Center, Coldwater Road in the town of Chi-Li.
Move it, Mr. President.
Moved by Legislator Delehanty, seconded by Legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0247, erroneous assessments, correction, and cancellation.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Delehanty, seconded by Legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0248, amend Resolution 138 of 2018 to amend and increase the contract with the University of Rochester Medical Center to provide ventilator and pediatric unit staffing at Monroe Community Hospital.
Mr. President.
Moved by Legislator Hebert, seconded
Second.
by Legislator Delehanty. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, this is Legislator Hasman.
Go ahead, Legislator Hasman.
I would just like to declare my interest. I currently work at the U of R Medical Center.
Thank you. Any other discussion? In favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0249, enact a law amending the Monroe County Charter to create a Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Mr. President.
Moved by
Second.
Legislator Taylor, seconded by Legislator Delehanty. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, this is Legislator Brew.
Go ahead, Legislator Brew, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I would like to thank the county executive for bringing forward this proposal. The addition of a chief diversity officer has been something talked about regularly since the beginning of the new year. However, it is surprising to me to see this position come attached with a brand new county department. That leads to a number of questions, and I do have a number of them, as it is much different from simply adding a new position, similar to when this legislature authorized the addition of a new addiction services director within the Office of Mental Health. So through you, Mr. President, to the administration, the first two departmental powers and duties are aligned with the duties of the Human Resources Director. Was any consideration given for making this a division of human resources, rather than a standalone department?
Through the President, this is Corinda Crosdell, Deputy County Executive for Health and Human Services. The idea is that this become a permanent department in Monroe County that goes beyond the current county executive term.
And just to follow up to that question, was it ever considered to be integrated into the Human Resources Department?
Through the president, again, this is Corinda. The work that has to be done through this newly created department goes well beyond the current scope of the Human Resources Department.
Okay, thank you. And through you, Mr. President, to the administration, should we expect to see cost offsets in the Department of Human Resources due to shifting duties from Human Resources to this newly created department?
Through the president, yes.
Okay. And through you, Mr. President, to the administration, would we have any idea as to the scope of those duties that would be shifted? And through you, Mr. President, to the administration, that can be provided at a later time. That's not a problem.
Through the president, EEO, and staff development.
Okay, thank you. Another question through you, Mr. President. The referral talks about the new department conducting training for employees on diversity. Will they take over all forms of training from Human Resources?
Through the president, it'll be a more comprehensive look in that area. So it's going to go beyond just training. We're envisioning this position developing a framework under which all departments can work to really break down those structural and institutional biases that are existing in many systems, including Monroe County. So it'll be well beyond training. The staff development portion of it will look to develop upward mobility for underrepresented classes who may have not otherwise been given opportunities to advance within county government.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Mr. President, to the administration, in the draft local law, section B, number 10, it refers to Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion rather than department. Will that need to be changed to department to be consistent with the language in the rest of the local law?
Through the president, yes.
Okay, thank you. And through you, Mr. President, will the Chief Diversity Officer be given a take-home vehicle?
Through the president, no.
Through the President, how many full-time positions will be supported by the department?
Through the president, 3.
Thank you. And through the president to the administration, will staff be assigned from existing departments or will new positions be created?
Through the president, this is about changing culture. So this position will work in partnership with department heads. So they should be looking at changing practice, not really adding staff.
Thank you very much. And through the president to the administration, what physical space will the department occupy and what will be the interdepartmental charge for rent? I'm wondering if you're that far yet.
Through the president, we haven't gotten that far yet. We're thinking between county office building and city place.
Okay, thank you. And through the president to the administration, what other interdepartmental charges do you envision for this department?
Mr. President, Robert Franklin, County Finance, you're going to see the standard array of interdepartmental chargebacks, including information services, probably indirect cost allocation plan, we call ICAP from Law Department and Controller's Office, And that's probably about it.
Okay, thank you. And through you, Mr. President, to the administration, what are the estimated contractual costs over the next 5 years?
Through the president, none.
Through you, Mr. President, to the administration, what are the estimated costs for supplies and materials over the next 5 years?
Mr. President, again, Robert Franklin, County Finance. This is a relatively small office, similar to Office of Public Integrity. We do expect, on an annual basis, our supplies and materials costs to be within $1,000 to $2,000 annually. You can multiply that by 5. So perhaps anywhere from, say, $5,000 to $10,000 over a 5-year period.
Okay, thank you. And through you, Mr. President, to the administration, what, if any, revenues will be attributable to the department?
Through the president, none.
Through you, Mr. President, to the administration, are there any grants available to help fund the department?
Through the president, I guess that's something we'd have to look into.
Okay, thank you. And through the president to the administration, how much net county support will this department require in the 2021 budget?
Mr. President, we're still working through those issues, but again, it's a small office. Off the cuff, I'd say $500,000.
Okay, thank you. And through you, Mr. President, to the administration, does this local law create and find the position of Chief Diversity Officer, or will there be an additional legislation required to execute these actions? And if it does create the positions, what will the director's salary group and range be?
To the President, this is Andrew Gazetta, the HR Director. The Chief Diversity Officer will be a Group 25, and this legislation for the Law Department would create the position.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President, to the administration, what is the timeline for getting the department up and running and hiring the Chief Diversity Officer?
Through the President, this is Andrew Gazetta. The job would be posted if the legislature approves this, and typical postings are posted for 2 weeks. And then there would be the interview and recruitment process. So I would say roughly it would probably take, depending on schedules of interviews and things of that nature, 2 months at max.
Okay, thank you very much. And I know I had a lot of questions, and thank you for your responses. But Mr. President, I'm troubled by the fact that the referral states there will be no impact on the county budget. But obviously, the creation of a new county department will have a financial impact well into the future. So before considering this matter further, I would like to see a report from the administration documenting the long-term fiscal impact of creating this department, as well as more detailed answers to my questions, as well as the questions of other legislators. Therefore, Mr. President, I request that this matter be referred back to the administration for the purpose of providing the requested report.
Thank you, Legislator Brew. A lot of good points. I'm going to allow us to refer this matter back to the administration to review and document the long-term fiscal impact of creating the department, as well as answers to any additional questions posed by any other legislators. Next item.
Mr. President, Legislator Morelli.
Yes, Legislator Morelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I ask the administration an additional question on the previous item?
Yeah, go ahead, Legislator Morelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, Given that the majority leader has now stalled the creation of this diversity officer, and the president has gone along with the stall tactic, through you to the administration, can you tell us what sort of effect this type of stall tactic would have on our counties?
Wait a minute, Legislator Morelli, where do we get stall tactic? I mean, where do you come up with this stuff? I mean, you're so aggressive, so confrontational. It's not a stall tactic. He asked a lot of good questions. He didn't get a lot of good answers, and he's going to send it back to the administration. Why do you have to say stall tactic?
I'm sorry, Mr. President, I asked the administration a question. I'm looking for a response from them.
You know, I referred it back to the administration. I'm going on to the next item. I don't even think after I refer it back, it's going to go to the next, until it goes back to the administration for further questions, then you can ask that question. Next item, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, for stalling this legislator's ability.
Okay, that's enough, Legislator Morelli. Next item, please.
Not giving legislators
you're out of order. Just quiet down,
abilities
please.
to ask questions.
Go ahead. Next item, please.
Referral
in a very Trump-like manner.
20-0250, authorize an intermunicipal agreement with the City of Rochester to provide joint planning services through the Commission on Racial and Structural Equity.
Moved by go ahead. Moved by Legislator Hebert, seconded by Legislator Alcoffer and Delehanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0256, authorization to rename the Greater Rochester International Airport located at 1200 Brooks Avenue to the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport.
Moved by Legislator Felder, seconded by Legislator Boyce. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President. Just wanted to, the idea to rename the airport at the Frederick Douglass has been.
Who's speaking?
Oh, Legislator Felder. I'm sorry.
I can't hear him. What did he say?
Says his network's low, but Legislator Felder.
Legislator
Okay,
Felder.
Legislator Felder. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Legislator Felder. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said the move to rename the airport after Frederick Douglass goes back at least to about 2005, 2007. And we've been working on this for a while in this community and have not been able to get the traction. And this year, when Richard Glazer put his online petition out there, we were able to get the support that we needed to have the impetus to move forward. And so I immediately, when I saw the petition, began the process of looking at legislation to rename the airport. And then the county executive said that he was in favor of the idea, so we went on and created the legislation. As far as we know, what needs to happen now is that once we authorize the renaming of the airport, then the airport authority has to work with the FAA to deal with whatever particulars there are, such as what the three-digit code designation is. That's going to change, and those different things. But as far as we know, from the research we've done, it's not a complicated matter at all. So we're looking forward to getting this done as soon as possible, and really being able to celebrate Frederick Douglass for who he was in this community. And I think it's a great testament to the Republicans that they were willing to go along with this legislation.
Thank you, Legislator Felder. Any further discussion?
Legislator Flagler Mitchell.
Go ahead, Legislator Flagler Mitchell. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am also excited to see the renaming of the Greater Rochester International Airport to the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport. It's a suiting fit. If he was living at this time, that would have been the airport. He probably would have been coming back and forth, being that he still have family in our community. And so I would just really want to thank you all for just even seeing it fit to name the airport after a man that really gave his all to this community. And, it's fitting because Rochester was named after a slaveholder. So the airport is named after a freedom fighter. So, we're excited and looking forward to seeing the name change quick.
Thank you, Legislator. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Legislator Baynes,
Legislator Baynes is opposed.
You oppose, Legislator Baynes?
no, I'm trying to get my phone figured out. I'd like to say a couple things about this motion, Mr. President.
About the airport motion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Two things. As the resident English teacher and American history teacher in our honorable body, I would love to declare the autobiography of Frederick Douglass and the biography of Frederick Douglass to be texts for our community to read. And I just kind of extemporaneously suggesting that we consider the legislature as a body to take on a text to read, particularly the recent biography, so that when we are actually all together on the exciting day when we break the proverbial champagne bottle on the side of the airport in honor of Frederick Douglass, that we do so in the most literate state of mind possible. And I would echo Leader Felder's comment about our Republican friends and their willingness to support, because as you know, as an abolitionist, the Frederick Douglass and all of his fellow abolitionists were all members of the Republican Party when the Republican Party stood for equal rights and an abolition of slavery. So what a lovely and wonderful opportunity for our community to celebrate this amazing legacy. And I want to endorse this referral with my full-throated support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We already voted on it, so I guess you're an aye too. So it carries. Next item, please.
Item. That was our last item.
Okay, great, yeah. Are there any other matters to come before the committee of the whole? The committee of the whole stands adjourned and shall rise and report in the same matter as the legislator standing committees. The July 30th, 2020 special meeting of the legislature is reconvened. There being no unfinished business, Legislator Brew.
President, I move that this meeting be adjourned until our next scheduled meeting is determined. Thank you.
Thank you, Legislator Brew.